I created Species Nutrition with one mission in mind: to provide bodybuilders and serious athletes with no-nonsense supplements that work. I put my name and reputation on every bottle of Species Nutrition products. If you want to be your absolute best, join the evolution. Hello, and welcome back to the Midday Muscle. Let's go. And we'll dive right into it today with an update from good Veto, who seems like he's still making steady strides toward being ready for his pro debut later on this year. A few weeks ago, there were some reports floating around that Veto was targeting the Yamamoto Pro as a potential landing spot for his first outing of the season. But recently, we've heard a rumor that he was also potentially floating the idea of competing at the Europa Pro in mid-September, where he would presumably be looking to earn a win and secure his Olympia qualification. We're going to see a handful of rookies make their pro debut between now and September, including Justin Shear next week in Chicago, and Carlos Thomas a few weeks from now in Texas. But right now, Veto feels like the one guy in this year's class who can have the biggest impact from day one. And if he does end up being as good as advertised, there are going to be a couple of shows in that late summer and early fall window that could have a huge effect on how the second half of the season plays out. Now, depending on what Veto ultimately decides to do, that road to an early Olympia qualification might end up being littered with landmines, because at some point we're expecting to see Nathan Diasha also make a first appearance of the season during the same time frame. We haven't seen an official physique update from Nathan's camp for a few weeks now, but in all the training footage we've seen, he looks like he's right where he needs to be to hit the ground running when he's ready. Despite dealing with the injury and the surgery and the rehab that derailed him toward the end of last year, I'm sure Nathan's probably itching to get back out there and pick up where he left off. And as we saw right before he got derailed by that bicep injury, when he's right physically, he's good enough to hold his own against anyone in bodybuilding on any given night. It seems like it's been business as usual in the 212 so far this year, which you think will have to change at some point, especially after former classic physique champ BREON Ansley starts to make his presence felt. Recently, we heard from sources close to BREON's camp that he's in the early stages of prep for his season debut, even though we haven't heard an official date just yet. But judging by some of the preliminary behind-the-scenes stuff we're seeing from him over these last few weeks, it does look like he'll be ready to live up to the billing and potentially be able to come in and contend for a title shot right out of the gate. Between Sean, Angel, Kamal, Keon, potentially all being in the mix for top 5 spots in the fall, the top of the 212 is looking like it'll be a dogfight this year. But if BREON does come in and prove that he can hang with these guys right out of the gate, I think the judges are going to have their hands full trying to sort out all of this action during Olympia weekend. And before we're out of here today, we've got one more update for you from Wilkin, who looks like he's been taking full advantage of his extended off-season so far. We don't believe there's any official word from Brett yet about what his scale weight is these days, but just looking at this video content he's cranking out over the last few weeks, it's definitely looking like he's packed on a ton of quality size over the last few months. From an outsider's perspective, watching him progress into an Olympia qualified open bodybuilder from where he started out a few years ago has been really cool to see. And now that he's given his body this extra time to grow, to continue building on that base, you'd imagine that whatever this next version of him is going to be something pretty special. And if he can get back to the conditioning he had when he won the Romania Pro, but also combine that with a few pounds of new stage weight, that's got the potential to be a deadly combination that might land some W's at some point down the road. And yet again, we've made it through a Midday Muscle. Thanks for still watching. Keep it locked on RX Muscle. See you later.